Hi, good morning. We are reading about the French Revolution and the Mystery of History. We're on volume 4. We're on page 67, and the French Revolution was from 1789 to 1799, and we made it to the birth of the National Assembly. And we did last time look at the French estates, meaning the division of the classes. The first estate being the church and the clergy, who did not have to pay taxes. The second estate being the nobility, the kings, the queen, or the king, the queen, the lords, wealthy landowners, they paid a smidge of tax. And then the third estate being the middle class, or the bourgeoisie, they were the businessmen, the merchants, and the poor peasants and serfs. Now, these people paid almost 50% of their income to taxes. That's like half of their money. All the money they make goes to taxes. They're not even making that much money anyway. So that's why they're so upset. And that's why we're having a little revolution. That's why we're having a big revolution here. Okay. And what's his name called a meeting of the Estates General? It was King Louis the 16th. The meeting started in May. By June, nothing had been accomplished, just arguing over voting rights. Each estate had one vote, but the third estate, so they're voting by estates. That's interesting. They're voting by class.
The first state had one vote, the second state had two votes?
Estate, not a state, not a next sentence. Not a next word state, but an estate. An estate. E-S-T-A-T-E. An estate.
Okay.
It doesn't say. I'm reading it. Each estate had one vote, but the third estate represented 95 to 98% of the population. Do you see why that would be unfair? So each estate had one vote on what would happen. The clergy had one vote, the nobility had one vote, and the third estate, which were the peasants, the businessmen, the merchants, they also, all together, they just had one vote. But imagine if they were all standing there. The third estate is almost the entire country. And the clergy and the nobility can outvote them because the clergy is just a few. The nobility is just a few people. The third estate is a huge amount of people.
Yes. That outnumbers them.
And they can't, their vote isn't fairly represented. All those people just get one vote. And the clergy and the nobility can each use their vote together to outvote the third class. So let's just say we're voting on taxes. And almost the entire country wants taxes to be lower. Or almost the entire country thinks that the nobility should pay more taxes. So they say, okay, well, let's take a vote. Clergy, what's your vote? We vote no. Nobility, what's your vote? We vote no. Peasants, what's your vote? Yes, y'all should pay more taxes. We pay all the taxes. I'm sorry. That's 2 votes to 1. Y'all still have to pay the taxes. Well, at least lower our taxes. Okay, let's take a vote. Clergy, what's your vote? Should we lower the peasants' taxes? No. Nobility, should we lower the peasants' taxes? No. Peasants, should we lower your taxes? Yes! Listen to us. This is all of us. You're taxing us too high. I'm sorry. That's 2 votes to 1. Your taxes remain the same. Do you see how they get outvoted every time?
Yes.
So they were not being fairly represented, and a large mob of the third estate stomped out of the meeting and gathered on an indoor tennis court. This angry group, they took the tennis court oath, saying they would not disband until they were recognized. Can you imagine the scene? Ordinary folks stepping up for their rights. Because of their large numbers, they did take control of the Estates General, and they renamed it the National Assembly. By the way, a few of the clergy and the nobility sided with the Third Estate because they agreed that the system was unfair. So that's great. Like, a few of the clergy and the nobility sided, but the clergy's vote, though, has to go with what most of the clergy are voting. So if just a couple of the clergy are saying, hey, this isn't fair, and they're like, well, we don't care. Hold on, I have a sneeze. Excuse me. Whew. Do you see how it was very hard to get change?
Yes.
Miss Hobart says, I would love to report that the Third Estate knew exactly what to do with their newfound power, but unfortunately that was not the case. They had unbridled freedom. What does unbridled mean?
Unbridled means uncontrolled.
No boundaries, no rails. Completely out of control. They had pent up hostility, meaning they had been angry for years. Probably for generations. She said they went berserk. I don't think I've ever seen that word in a history book. Panic and fear swept over some who assumed that Louis would not recognize the National Assembly. Mobs rioted in the streets. Peasants armed themselves with pitchforks and shovels because they weren't allowed to have arms, I don't think. Or maybe they were, I don't know. Hundreds sacked houses of the nobility, and large groups stormed the Bastille, or the Bastille. The Bastille was an old castle converted into a prison. On July 14th, at the time it was attacked, it only held 7 prisoners. But the dungeon of the Bastille represented a long history of oppression by the rich and the royal. It was also believed to have weapons in there, which the masses wanted. While taking the prison down, in a 4-hour attack, rioters yelled, "Liberty, equality, fraternity." Some members of the French army, equally fed up with their king, joined in on the attack. The story goes that when Louis XVI heard about the storming of the Bastille, he said, "This is a revolt." A messenger corrected him and said, "No, sire, it is a revolution," and the messenger was right. In my opening paragraph, I told you that 2 extreme personalities make this story unforgettable. Let's now look at one of them, the legendary Marie Antoinette, and see how she fits into the revolution. Yes.
We actually have a history song about the Bastille.
Okay. All right, we are going to read just a little bit of Marie Antoinette. Hi, babe.
Woo! Woo!
But we're not going to finish it today. Hopefully, I'm not even sure if we'll finish it tomorrow. Hopefully we can. Marie Antoinette was the 13th child of Maria Theresa. Do you remember Maria Theresa? She was the Empress of Austria who fought Frederick the Great in the 7 Years' War. Maria tried to extend her Habsburg influence by marrying off her children into positions of royalty. She arranged for Marie Antoinette, her youngest child, to marry the next king of France and become the queen. The French were not thrilled. They didn't like the idea of an Austrian princess becoming the queen of France. And they received the teenager with coldness. Perhaps as a reaction to the difficult situation, or because she was spoiled, Marie Antoinette soothed herself by spending a ridiculous amount of money. Nicknamed Madame Deficit for her wild spending. They call her Madame Deficit. That means they were in debt because of her. She bought excessive numbers of shoes, gowns, and diamonds. She indulged in gambling. She hosted lavish parties, and she sneaked out to masquerade balls. Even the hairstyle of Marie Antoinette was extravagant. She wore white powdered wigs adorned with pearls, feathers, ribbons, and butterflies. Legend claims she once wore a model ship on her head to commemorate a sea battle and that some wigs were so high she could hardly walk under their weight.
She was like this.
Here, it says, extravagant in every way, Marie Antoinette laced her white powdered wigs. For privacy, she and her children moved to the Petit Trianon, a small chateau, meaning castle, on the same grounds as the Palace of Versailles. Here's a picture of her and her children.
And if she fell and the wig came down, someone walking by, they would go like this. Oh! Because it's so heavy.
She's down on the ground and can't get up because her hair is down there. All right. Let me read a little bit more. Now, on behalf of Marie Antoinette, I must say that to some degree she was the byproduct of her environment. It was expected of the Queen that she employ help for every move she made. She could not rise out of bed without an audience of attendants, nor could she eat without a parade of nobles watching her every bite. I don't think I could do that. At the Palace of Versailles, the main residence of the King and Queen, there was protocol for everything. Marie Antoinette had an endless number of attendants to dress her, bathe her. I don't want you bathing me. Feed her. I don't want you feeding me. And to tie her shoes. I can do that, thank you. Move away.
They're like, let me bathe you, let me feed you, let me tie your shoe.
Yes.
Mama needs to tie my shoes.
Oh, lovey. With royal treatment like that, it's no wonder she grew out of touch with reality. She had been so finely groomed and monitored for the position she held that she tried on her own to escape it. When she became a mother, she requested a small home away from the daily pressures of the court. This Greek-style home was known as the Petit Trianon, was located on the same grounds as the Palace of Versailles, but it had special features to give her extreme privacy. She was influenced by the writings of Rousseau, so she sought peace for her soul at her castle, or at her chateau, where she could get out of her fancy clothes, play with her children, raise chickens, grow vegetables, and milk cows. Letters she wrote home to Austria suggest she also found solace in giving to the poor. All right, we're going to stop there. We're mid-page on page 69. But I think that's enough for now. All right, we'll see you maybe tomorrow. Bye.